Spectre, the accused person, came out. Spectre evidence, the chief evidence used in the same witch trials. And that's why they needed, halfway through, they said, this is bad, so they needed confessions. And then the people in Andover who confessed would say, well, they were all leading questions. Well, did you see Martha Carey at the witch meeting? Oh, yes, we did. Well, then, now that's proof Martha Carey was a witch, so the hanging of her was justified. So they were off the hook. And then, next thing, you see, the first meeting of the court, Cardinal Mather wrote a long letter. Do not lay more stress upon pure Spectre testimony than will bear. I'm far from urging the English method of torture, but whatever has a tendency to put witches into confusion is likely to bring them into confession. So you put them into confusion, and then you get a confession out of them. Here, cross and swift questions have their use. So Cardinal Mather did want the confession, but they didn't get them from those people, and they hanged them anyway. That's why they needed the confessions later from other people. Okay, go on, next slide. Well, you see, the Court of Artune was dissolved, the devil of partisan was shaped, and it was agreed that Spectre was not sufficient proof. So the new court, the Superior Court meeting, they would not use spectral evidence, and everybody got off except for 3. Okay, next slide. And so it's all in the book here, so we'll skip that. And there's the tombstone of who's which William Barker Jr. And there's 3 of the Barkers in that graveyard, right next to each other, the burial stones. All 3 have been accused. Okay, next one. Now, John Calvin goes through all this confession and things, but John Calvin was saying you confess to God, no intermediate person. Where the Catholic people would confess to a priest as an intermediary, and then the priest would confess to God as that. So that was the distinction. But see, when these Andover people were confessing, they were confessing not to, they were confessing to legal people, civil people. They weren't. And so that's why the legal people thought, oh, well, we can just hang them because they confessed. And it's confusion of the confession. In other words, they were trying to confess. The very religious people in Andover were just trying to confess any little thing that they might have done because they had nothing to hide. And they were taking them as confessions of guilt. And it was, next slide was it's more John Calvin, but became, except for Martha Carey and Mary Parry, everyone in Andover had confessed. So then we go on to the next slide. Remaining 5, these people had been convicted in 1692, but they had confessed, so that they let those people, they put those people on hold. But then in 1693, they were ready, they were actually dug their grave and were going to hang them. And then Phillips stepped in. And so it's because ministers objected to this spectral evidence. The directed charge of spectral evidence alone used conviction. These ministers made valiant attempts to induce confessions. Next step. See, decision is not made to hang 5 people who confessed, and all of them from Andover except 1. But they would be hanged later, but they weren't, and that was because the government reprieved them. Next slide. Okay. I guess, is there more slides?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Now, see that Mather actually interviewed Mrs. Osgood, who was in prison. She was a very high person in Andover. And she just said, being asked why she previous times begged about being back. She probably said, well, when she owned the thing, they asked her the time, to which she answered that she did not the time. But being told that she did know the time, she must tell the time, and the lie she considered about 12 years before. That was like, just gave a leading questions and said, you must know this, but, oh, okay, I do. And so go on, next slide. And being asked to see the cat, she then like said the devil appeared to her and all that. So her confession was just made up thing, really. Okay, next slide. That's the meeting house in Salem. This is what Americans had, and not that elaborate church in England you saw. At the meeting house, okay. And then this is Hamlet. We've been through this. That was a partisan with pleasing shape. This is what they argued about all through 1692. The devil has a partisan with pleasing shape, and out of weakness and melancholy, he can take the spirit could be the devil. We say, okay, next slide. And Hamlet says, I'll have grounds more relevant to this. He's looking for more evidence. And Hamlet devises the play, which was within the play, disclosed the King's Guild. The next slide. Salem witch trials. So, this is the conclusion. Salem witch trials in December 16th, accused witches did not confess. As a result, the court used spectral evidence to convict the accused witches. However, certain leading authorities and clergy spoke out and said, spectral evidence may be a trick of the devil. The court needed more grounds, more relative. The answer, and over the thing for the confessions it will bring. It was that started with Mary Lacy and Mary Lacy Jr. They would say anything, and then so I don't think Andrew was really guilty of things, but they got sucked into something that they didn't know they were doing. Yeah.
Now I'm aware that in Salem, some of the accusations were means of a land grab.
Mm-hmm.
Was that also true in Andover? Because I know Barker's.
It was true in Andover. The sheriff came to grab land, but the citizens in Andover told them to get lost, essentially. They didn't let them grab the land in Andover. So the Warlords ended up with all their land. They did take things, they took things, but they didn't get away with it in Andover. Because by that time, the Andover people weren't going to put up with that. And they actually accused Dudley Bradstreet of witchcraft. And he had to go to New Hampshire. And he came back in a couple of months, but the tide had turned and they couldn't grab anybody's land in Andover.
Is there any explanation as to why these girls made the accusation?
It's strange because
Look at a 14-year-old today.
the little girls had no voice at all in the family. They were just considered, the children were considered very low down in those days. And, it started in Salem Village in the house of the minister, the pastor's house, and his little girl was afflicted. But he pulled her out very soon out of the afflicted group and sent her to Salem to the relative. So that's something that would be another whole day's.
I was wondering what their lives were like afterwards.
Yeah. But you should grab a book, and there's two of the books there, and you can take it. And if you don't want it, if you give it to some young person who will use it, that's you got to try to get the young people to read.
Why can't we get a bad name?
Very associated with witchcraft.
But why?
I don't know why, but right from the early days, cats were associated, especially with bobcat.
I just want to thank everyone for coming today. And if you have questions, I'm sure Anders will stay for a little while, but I want to thank you. And just actually talking about young people at that time, the afflicted girls. We do have a program, it's not directly associated with the witch trials, but we have a woman named Velia Jakes Urban who's come here before. She's the colonial goodwife, and she does a wonderful presentation about life during the colonial period. And she's actually coming to do a program on the 12th called Puddinheads, and it's about colonial children in colonial America. And it's kind of interesting because there are a lot of theories about what was happening with young girls at that time, the stress of their lives, and how that may have manifested itself in some of the physical issues that they were experiencing in court. So again, not directly connected, but it gives you a really good insight into what children were living like during this period of time. So if you're interested, please feel free to give us a call or to sign up online. But thank you again so much, and thank you, Enders, for your talk. Thank you. Have a great day.